One day, Edward was at the docks when he met Torindo Just. "Hey, Torindo Just," said Edward. "Hi, Edward," said Torindo Just. "Well then," said Edward, "how's the docks?" "It's fab," said Torindo Just. "How's the rails?" "It is fab as well," said Edward. Can't talk. I'll talk to you later, because I have a goods train to pull," he said. "Where is it?" "Where is it?" said Edward. Oh, said Torindo Just. "There it is. Where you're near to." "Oh, thanks," said Edward. And so Edward was coupled to the slate train. His goods train was called the slate train. He never pulled this one before. "Right," said Edward, "I'm ready," and he puffed away. He said goodbye to Torindo Just, and Torine said goodbye to Edward. Torindo Just was impressed with Edward, and so Edward was impressed with him as well. Where are we taking the slate to?" said Edward. "We're taking it to Boulder Mountain," said his driver. "Okay then," said Edward. So while Edward was puffing on the track, he went up. But while he was going down, suddenly he was going too fast, so he came off the rails. "Help!" said Edward. "I'm gonna fall!" He knew he was gonna fall then. "Help! Help!" said Edward. "Somebody! I'm going to fall!" But just then, Henry saw Edward and came to call for help. Just then, Billy and Flora were at the docks. When Henry arrived, he said this to him: "Edward came off the rails. You two, we have to help him, quickly." "Don't worry," said Flora and Billy. "We'll be right away." And they were. Just then they were finally at the bridge, and Henry got hold of the goods train, and Flora and Billy were keeping an eye on their friend. "Help!" said Edward. "I'm gonna fall." "Stay still," said Henry. "You'll be fine." And so Edward was fine. He was pulled back on the rails, and then he was ready to go. "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome," said Henry. And so Edward puffed away, and Henry came back to the docks with Billy and Flora, while Edward is taking the goods train taking the slate train to Boulder Mountain. He was finally there, and there was the house, and there was a broken end on it, what he needed to fix. And so the slate was finally used for fixing that old wall. And finally, after when they're done, after when they were finished, the old Boulder Mountain brick wall was fixed and mended, and also before Edward came back to the sheds, the Fat Controller said this to him: "You were a very brave engine, Edward," he said, "and you were a very brave engine. You were a very brave engine, Edward," he said, "and Henry, Billy, and Flora told me that you were." I'm very proud of you, and I was very proud to know that you have been a very brave engine without coming off the rails, and you did well bringing the slate to Boulder Mountain to fix the Boulder Mountain brick wall. You have done a very great job." "Thank you, sir," said Edward. And now Edward is also a brave engine and the cleverest engine on the railway, and that is him.